Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. I had always been the reliable one, the sensible one. A friend to lean on, someone who could be counted on to keep the peace, avoid drama, and maintain the order in my life. My friendships were simple, predictable. One of my closest friends, Claire, and I had met in college and had stayed close over the years. She was bubbly, carefree, and I admired how easily she navigated the unpredictability of life. We had laughed together, cried together, and shared countless moments. Her brother-in-law, Jason, however, was a different story. I met him only a handful of times. He was quiet, reserved, and a bit distant. He had always seemed a little out of place at family gatherings, as though he was trying to find his footing, but he wasn't someone I ever paid much attention to. He was just Claire's brother-in-law, after all. I had no reason to think of him as anything more than that Claire had been married to her husband, Ben, for several years, and they had built a life together that seemed perfect on the outside. Ben was a successful entrepreneur, while Claire had a job as a marketing manager, and together they had 2 kids. Their house was beautiful, and they always threw the most extravagant parties. They were the couple that everyone envied. I would often find myself at their gatherings, catching up with old friends, laughing over wine and appetizers, occasionally making small talk with Jason, who always seemed to hover on the outskirts of the conversations. For the most part, I was content with this. I didn't have a deep connection. With Jason, I was friends with Claire, and that was enough. But everything changed one fateful night. It started with a late-night phone call from Claire. She had just returned from a work trip and was feeling a little down. Her tone was off, and I could sense that something wasn't quite right. Claire was usually the one who lifted others up, so hearing her vulnerable was unusual. "I need to talk to you, Emma," she said, her voice shaky. "It's about Ben. He's been distant lately. I don't know what's going on." I reassured her that it was probably just a phase, that maybe Ben was stressed with work or something else. I offered a listening ear as she explained how she had noticed him staying late at the office, texting late at night, and being unusually quiet. Claire had found a few texts on his phone that seemed out of place, messages from a woman at his office, messages that bordered on flirtation. The worst part was, she didn't know how to confront him without it turning into a huge mess. I listened, offering words of comfort, but deep down I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. Infidelity? It wasn't a word I ever thought I would associate with Claire's life, especially not with Ben. He was the perfect husband, the perfect provider. But what if there was something more to it? What if this perfect life had a crack in it, one that no one could see until it was too late? I stayed up late that night, thinking about Claire's situation. I knew she needed support, and I also knew that she would be looking to me for answers. I hadn't experienced anything like what she was going through, but I was willing to help her figure it out. No matter how painful. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening, about a week after Claire's phone call. I had just finished dinner and was sitting on my couch with a glass of wine, trying to unwind after a long day at work. I hadn't heard from Claire in a while, but I figured she was either dealing with things on her own or maybe talking to Ben. My mind drifted to the ongoing story in her life, and I found myself wondering how she was holding up. Suddenly, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and when I opened it, I was startled to see Jason standing there, looking a bit out of breath, his eyes intense and searching. He wasn't someone who visited me without reason, so the appearance of him on my doorstep was unexpected and out of character. "Jason?" I asked, genuinely surprised to see him. He looked around as if to make sure no one was watching before stepping inside. "Can I come in?" "I need to talk to you," he said in a low, urgent tone. His presence caught me off guard. "Of course, but what's going on? Is everything okay?" Jason didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped into the living room and dropped down onto the couch, his hands nervously wringing together. "It's about Ben," he said, finally looking me in the eye. I sat across from him, my heart racing. Was he going to tell me something about Claire and Ben's marriage? What about Ben? Jason took a deep breath, and I could see the pain in his eyes. I didn't know how to tell you, Emma. I never thought it would come to this, but I have. To confess something. Something that's been weighing on me for a long time. My pulse quickened. Jason, what is it? His voice cracked as he spoke. I've been seeing someone. It started a few months ago, and I didn't know how to stop it. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And now I don't know how to fix this. I stared at him, unable to comprehend his words. What are you talking about? Who are you seeing? Jason's eyes filled with guilt as he looked at me, his face reddening. It's Claire. I've been having an affair with her. My world stopped. For a moment, everything in my living room seemed to blur as if the air itself had thickened. Jason, my friend's brother-in-law, was confessing to a betrayal so deep that I couldn't fathom how it had happened. I stared at him, speechless. You're telling me that you've been sleeping with Claire? I asked, my voice a whisper. Jason nodded, his face contorted in shame. I never meant for it to happen, Emma, but we were spending more time together, and one thing led to another. I never wanted to hurt her or Ben, but I did. I'm so sorry. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process the words that were still echoing in my mind. Claire's brother-in-law, someone I had seen as nothing more than a distant family member, had been having an affair with her for months. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. But why? I finally managed to say, why didn't you stop? Why didn't you come to me or talk to someone? I couldn't, Jason replied, his voice breaking. It started with innocent conversations, and then we both got too close. It's complicated, Emma. I never wanted to fall in love with her, but I did. And now it's all a mess. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Jason, the quiet, reserved man I had barely known, had been living a lie right under my nose. And now I had to figure out what to do with this information. What was I supposed to do with this knowledge? I couldn't just go to Claire and tell her that her husband's brother had been betraying her. But at the same time, how could I keep this secret from her? The weight of the situation pressed down on me, and I felt my body tense. What do you expect me to do with this, Jason? How do you expect me to just sit on this information? I don't know, Emma, he said, his voice filled with remorse. I don't want to hurt her anymore. I just want to make it right. I stared at him, torn between loyalty to Claire and the incredible betrayal I was witnessing. Finally, I shook my head. You need to tell her. You need to be honest with her, Jason. This can't go on. She deserves to know the truth. Jason's face dropped and he stood up, running his hands through his hair in frustration. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can bear to lose her, but I don't want to keep hurting her either. I took a deep breath. Then you need to make a choice. It's time for the truth, Jason. If you love her, you need to face it. If you don't, you need to walk away. He nodded, his face full of regret. You're right. I just didn't know where to start. I'm so sorry, Emma, for everything. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Jason left, and I sat there in silence, the weight of his confession pressing down on me. What had started as a quiet, ordinary night had turned into a revelation that would change everything. I knew I couldn't keep this secret from Claire. She deserved the truth, no matter how painful it was, and so I made the decision. I would help Claire confront this painful reality. It wasn't going to be easy, but the truth had to come out, and she needed to know that the man she trusted most had betrayed her in the most painful way possible. The next day, I found myself knocking on Claire's door. When she opened it, I saw the tiredness in her eyes, the same vulnerability she had confided to me about weeks ago. She was ready for answers, and I wasn't sure if she was prepared for the truth I was about to tell her. But it was time. It's about Ben, I began, and Jason ... Claire's eyes instantly darkened, her brows furrowing. What about Ben? What's going on, Emma? She asked, her voice tense, though I could see the vulnerability in her expression. She was nervous, but desperate for answers. I stood there for a moment, unsure of how to begin. I had never imagined that I'd be the one to carry such painful information to her. My heart ached for her, knowing how much this truth would hurt. But it was time. She deserved to know, no matter how difficult the conversation. Claire, I began softly, stepping inside her home. She motioned for me to sit on the couch, her hand gripping the armrest nervously. I hesitated for a moment before speaking again. It's about Jason. She froze, her expression shifting from concern to confusion. Jason? What does he have to do with this? Is something going on with him? I couldn't hold back the words any longer. I had to tell her the truth, as painful as it was. Claire, Jason has been seeing someone for months now, and that someone is you. Her face went pale and she blinked rapidly as if trying to process what I had just said. What? That doesn't make sense, she whispered, shaking her head. Jason? My brother-in-law. No, you're wrong. There's no way. I could see the disbelief in her eyes, the denial trying to protect her from what was to come. But I knew I couldn't sugarcoat it. It's true, Claire. He came to me last night and confessed. He's been having an affair with you. Her hand flew to her mouth and she gasped, her entire body going rigid. No, this can't be. Emma, please tell me you're lying. Please. I shook my head gently, my heart breaking for her. I wish I could, but I can't. Jason was in my house last night. He admitted everything, and he's torn. He knows it's wrong, but it happened. Tears welled in Claire's eyes, and she stood up quickly, pacing the room as her breathing became shallow. This can't be happening, she muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible. He was my brother-in-law. He was supposed to be family. She turned to me, her eyes pleading. Are you sure, Emma? Are you sure he wasn't just confused or saying things out of guilt? I could feel her slipping into a state of shock, desperately trying to convince herself that this was a nightmare. I hated that I was the one delivering this devastation. I know it's hard to hear, but Jason told me everything. How it started, how it grew, how they both kept it hidden, and now it's all come crashing down. She collapsed onto the couch, her face in her hands. Ben, she whispered, her voice shaking. What do I do now? How do I face him? How can I could see the devastation on her face, the same face that had always been filled with strength and laughter. She had always been the one to hold everything together, but now she was crumbling before me. I sat beside her, putting my arm around her shoulders, offering the only comfort I knew how. You're not alone in this, Claire. I'll be here for you. You don't have to face Ben alone. She shook her head, her sobs escaping uncontrollably now. I don't even know where to start. How could I let this happen? How did I let it get this far? I didn't have answers. I could only be there, the friend she had always been to me, even when it felt like my own heart was breaking along with hers. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just breathe. Okay. We'll figure this out together. But deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Claire's world was about to shatter, and no words could soften the impact of the truth. The man she loved, the man who had stood by her side for so many years, had betrayed her. And her brother-in-law, the one person she trusted, had stolen. More than just her trust, he had stolen a part of her soul. As the days passed, Claire and I found ourselves navigating the aftermath of the confession. She spent hours in her room, crying, processing the realization that her life was about to change forever. I encouraged her to talk to Ben, to confront him about what had happened. But it was obvious that the weight of what was about to unfold was too much for her to bear alone. I helped her through the process, though I could see that a part of her was already retreating into herself. Her trust shattered. Claire finally confronted Ben, and it was everything I feared it would be. The confrontation was ugly, full of shouting and accusations. Ben, at first, denied everything, claiming that he had no idea about Jason's betrayal. But when Claire showed him the text messages, the proof, he fell silent, his face pale and defeated. He had no choice but to admit what he had done, how he had been blind to the lies that had been right in front of him in the weeks that followed. Claire and Ben tried to salvage what remained of their marriage. Therapy was suggested, but the cracks in their relationship had already become too deep to repair quickly. Claire, despite her pain, tried to hold it together for the kids, but I could see the emotional toll it was taking on her. She wasn't the same person. The trust that had once been the foundation of her marriage had been destroyed, and now she had to rebuild it, not only with Ben, but with herself. As for Jason, his guilt consumed him. He apologized over and over again, begging for forgiveness. But Claire couldn't bring herself to look him in the eye, let alone forgive him. The betrayal ran too deep. The trust they had shared had been shattered, and Jason's attempts to make amends only felt like more betrayal to her. I watched as Claire went through the painful process of letting go. Slowly but surely, she started distancing herself from Jason, cutting off all ties. She started finding herself again rediscovering the strength that had always been inside her but had been hidden under the weight of her marriage. It wasn't easy, and there were days when she felt like she couldn't go on, but little by little, Claire rebuilt her life. And me? I was there every step of the way, standing by her, offering comfort when she needed it, and gently nudging her forward when she was ready. It was hard to watch my best friend go through such heartache, but I knew that eventually she would come out the other side stronger. She had to. But as Claire healed, I found myself struggling with my own emotions. I had never expected to be part of such a painful truth. I had always seen Jason as nothing more than Claire's brother-in-law. But seeing the man I once thought of as a distant family member become someone capable of such betrayal left me questioning everything. How could I have been so blind to the signs? How did I never see the growing tension between them? The more I reflected on it, the more I realized that infidelity doesn't just hurt the people involved, it affects everyone around them. I had been an unwilling witness to the fallout, and although I was there to support Claire, the experience left me questioning what I really knew about trust, love, and betrayal. In time, Claire found the strength to move forward, and while she never fully forgave Jason, she accepted that healing came in stages. She decided to take a step back from Ben as well, leaving the door open for the possibility of reconciliation, but only when both of them were ready. She didn't rush it, and I admired her for that. She learned that trust had to be earned again, not just from others, but from herself. And as for Jason, he disappeared from our lives, retreating into his own guilt and regret. He tried reaching out to Claire, but his attempts were futile. It seemed that the damage was irreparable. The finality of the betrayal meant that no matter how many apologies he offered, the foundation of their relationship was crumbled beyond repair. What had started as a simple, unexpected knock on my door had led to a tangled web of emotions, lies, and heartbreak. But as much as it had torn our lives apart, it also taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of being true to oneself. The painful experience reshaped our lives, and though it was difficult to navigate, it showed me how important it is to be honest, not just with others, but with yourself. The weeks after Claire's confrontation with Ben were some of the hardest moments of her life, and I watched her struggle with every decision she made. Yet, through the pain, she began to rebuild. It wasn't an easy journey, not at all, but Claire was stronger than I had given her credit for. I had always known her to be resilient, but seeing her transform into someone capable of standing tall in the face of such betrayal inspired me in ways I didn't expect. As Claire navigated the complexities of her broken marriage, I also found myself in a place I hadn't anticipated. I started to think more deeply about my own life, the relationships I had, and what I wanted for myself. I had always been there for others, for Claire, for family, for friends, but I had never truly stopped to consider what I wanted or needed. The shock of Claire's betrayal had made me question how often I had put others before myself, how I neglected my own needs in favor of maintaining the peace. It was one evening, weeks after Claire and Ben had separated temporarily, when I found myself thinking back on the events that had unfolded. I was sitting on the balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset when I heard the familiar knock on my door. When I opened it, there he was, Jason. For a moment, I froze, unsure what to do. After everything that had happened, I had cut him off, knowing that there was nothing left to salvage between us. He had betrayed my best friend in the most intimate way, and yet there he stood on my doorstep, looking more lost than I had ever seen him. "Can we talk?" Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes full of apology and regret. I hesitated. The pain of everything still lingered, but the years of knowing him as Claire's brother-in-law, the quiet moments shared in group settings, tugged at me. He wasn't just some stranger. He had once been a part of my life in a very different way. The betrayal stung, but my humanity made me pause, even if I didn't know what it would mean to have him back in my life. "Come in," I said, my voice soft, though a part of me still wanted to shut the door on him forever. But I knew we both needed closure. We sat in the living room, the silence between us awkward and thick. Jason's usual confident demeanor was gone, replaced by someone much more vulnerable. It was a side of him I had never seen before. His hands trembled slightly as he clasped them together. "I've made so many mistakes," Jason began, his voice raw with emotion. "I can't undo what I've done, and I know nothing I say can fix the hurt I've caused. But I need you to understand something, Emma." I sat back in my chair watching him, but I didn't speak. I knew he wasn't asking for forgiveness, not from me. That wasn't what this was about. "I've hurt Claire," Jason continued, his voice thick with guilt. "And I've hurt you by doing this too. I understand that. But there's something more I need to tell you. It's not just guilt I'm feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but I care about you. And it's not just because I messed things up with Claire, but because you were there. You were there for her, for me, and now I can't stop thinking about you." His words caught me off guard and my heart skipped a beat. I had heard him confessing his affair with Claire, but this was something different. It wasn't an apology for his actions, though I could hear the regret in his voice. No, this was something deeper, a raw admission that I wasn't prepared for. I swallowed hard, unsure what to say. My feelings for Jason had been buried under the weight of his betrayal. But hearing him speak like this, vulnerable and open in a way I had never known him to, be shifted something inside me. "Jason, after everything that's happened, how can you—" I trailed off, unsure how to finish the question. How could he expect me to even think about forgiveness, let alone something more, after what he had done? I know how it looks. I don't expect you to trust me again, not like that, but I can't deny what I feel. The way I've always felt when you're around. I can't keep pretending it doesn't matter. I felt an overwhelming swirl of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. But then there was something else, something softer, a quiet, buried longing that I couldn't push away. We had been friends after all. Or at least I thought we were. The chemistry between us had always been there, hidden behind the walls we built. But I never allowed myself to see it for what it was. I stood up, pacing in the living room. My thoughts were all jumbled. "You can't just expect me to forget, Jason, what you did. What you put Claire through, what you did to your own family." "I don't expect you to forgive me, Emma," he interrupted, his voice desperate. "I just need to be honest. I can't live with the regret of not telling you how I feel. I can't pretend I don't care anymore." The room was thick with tension, but there was something else too, an undeniable pull between us, a tension that had always been there, but one neither of us had ever acknowledged. I felt my breath catch in my throat. The air seemed heavier, more charged. Suddenly, Jason stood up and took a step toward me. I didn't move away. In that moment, everything around us faded away. The past, the betrayal, the hurt. I could feel his presence, feel the weight of everything unspoken between us, without thinking. I reached out and touched his arm, and for the first time, it wasn't about Claire or the affair or the guilt. It was just about us. our chemistry. Unspoken and powerful. Jason leaned in slowly, his hand gently cupping my cheek. His breath mingled with mine as his lips brushed against my forehead, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to feel something other than pain. "I know I've hurt you," he whispered against my skin, "but I want to show you that I can be someone you can trust." I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his touch, the sincerity in his words. Something in me stirred, something I thought I had lost forever, the possibility of something real, something that wasn't built on lies. He kissed me then, slowly, tenderly, as though we were both afraid of what we were opening up. The kiss deepened, and for the first time since everything had fallen apart, I felt a spark of hope, hope that not everything was broken, that maybe love could find its way back, even after everything. When we finally pulled away, our foreheads resting together, we both knew that we were no longer the people we had been. The past still lingered, but there was something new between us, something honest, something raw. "I'm sorry, Emma," Jason said again, his voice thick with emotion. "I know I can't fix the past, but I want to try. I want to be someone who deserves your love." And in that moment, despite everything that had happened, despite the pain, I could feel myself starting to believe in the possibility of a love that wasn't perfect, but was real. A love that had come from the ashes of betrayal. A love born from honesty and vulnerability. We had a long way to go. Trust would take time and healing would be a journey. But in that quiet moment, as the night wrapped around us, I knew that love could heal, love could rebuild, and love could rise from the darkest of places. And as Jason held me in his arms, I felt something stronger than just attraction. I felt a future, one where we could rewrite our story together. A passionate love rekindled in the ashes, ready to burn brighter than ever.